Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and boy, finally, I get to open up and review the brand new Neca Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1987 Fred Wolf Series Turtle Van. I never thought this day would come. I pre-ordered this thing all the way back in April of 2022, and I just got it in the mail on November 21st, 2023, a little over a year and a half. To be honest with you, I actually forgot it was that long ago. Like, I kind of felt like I pre-ordered this thing earlier in the year. You know, I guess they took a lot longer than they originally planned. I think when I looked, originally it was supposed to be Q1 2023. Not the case. Right now, as I start shooting this video, the date is actually January 3rd, 2024. Yeah, I haven't opened this thing up for over a month because all I've been doing in my spare time is compiling and putting together the complete Turtle Van animated history. That video's up, by the way, if you haven't checked it out yet, and it's almost 3 hours long. Yeah, I'm well aware that there may be something wrong with me, but, you know, I truly love making these super extensive, super detailed, overly excessive videos. So in that video, you know, everything was laid out very factually. It was all in chronological order. And in this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a lot of the screenshots, you know, that I took while making that video. And I will compare, you know, I'll do the full cartoon accuracy where I'll compare the different parts and pieces of this thing with the cartoon. And I'll try to find which episodes they were inspired by to create this actual final Turtle Van. And then when we get to things like the ladder wall here, you know, I'll discuss the certain episodes where you actually do see that wall there when you don't see the wall. You know, not every single one of them, but I'll give you the general idea of these things. I'll talk about every single time they shoot these side door blasters and the roof blasters. I'll talk about the time they actually use this thing to do something interesting. Don't worry. Even though this video will not include the full animation history, it'll include a lot of information. So originally this thing cost $250 plus $14.99 shipping and handling, and, you know, tax on top of that. When I got it in the mail, it came in this awesome Neca bubble wrap that I haven't seen since, I think, Toka Razar and Super Shredder. You know, this very cool Neca conformed bubble wrap. I like this. On the mailing box, mine says it is 4,942 out of 7,880. Now, as much as I just want to talk about the van inside of here, I got to talk about the amazing packaging. And I'll be honest, you know, I did take the Turtle Van out just because it was a little heavy. You know, I'm trying to move this box around on my table, but I haven't removed it from the plastic yet. Don't worry, we'll get there. But first I got to talk about this artwork here. And, you know, this right here, that is one beautiful cover. This art had a lot to live up to, and I think that the artist did a fantastic job, you know. I think it will sit quite nicely next to the Turtle Van art of old. Like, look at this. Look how exciting that was. And you look at this and you're like, this is equally as exciting. Some of the things I love on this are like Leonardo up here leading the charge against Krang, gigantic Krang, and the Technodrome. Now, I think showing giant Krang and the Technodrome and the reflection of the Channel 6 news building was such a clever way to convey what's going on here. Like, you didn't need to clog up the image with a giant Krang. You know, you could have had him in the foreground. You could have had him really large in the background in a smaller sized van. But having the van be the main focus and leaving Krang and the Technodrome and the reflection here, it says all you need to know, you know? You immediately understand the scale of Krang's threat against the city. I like how over here you have Raph kicking that foot soldier right in the gut. And down here, it's really cool to see Michelangelo man the side door blaster. And I will tell you this, I don't think Mikey, from what I recall, I could be wrong, I don't remember him ever sitting at the side door blaster. I'll have to check that out once we get there. Unless he... During the Attack of the Neutrinos episode, two people sit next to each other. I think maybe it's Leo and Raph, but we'll take a look when we get there. And altogether, I just love how this cover conveys a sense of action. It looks like the Turtle Van is flying down the street. You know, not only you got these motion lines, and also the van is like jumping up off of the street, you know? It looks pretty cool. Now, this pizza shop right here, that is Weird Pizza from the episode Pizza by the Shred. And, you know, I should mention, I can't believe I haven't mentioned it yet, but this artwork is done by Tim Latty, or Tim Latai? I don't know how to pronounce your name, man. I am sorry. Before Tim created this artwork, he actually did some work for IDW Comics. Tim was the interior artist on Volume 1 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures. Unfortunately, I don't have all the covers he did. I got this cool Eastman one, but this one right here, that is him. He did 3, and he did 4, and he worked on Volume 2, Issue number 1. But I think there are other people who also work on the interiors of this one. And then starting with number 2, he doesn't do them anymore. But he did do this cover. Now, I will honestly say this. Tim was my favorite artist to work on this comic book so far. I think he did a terrific job. I wish he would come back because, like I said, his artwork was very expressive and very cartoony. In the beginning of the series, I liked how he drew the Ninja Turtles with the lines down their beaks. But I love this page right here because you get to see him draw all these really cool animated villains like Slash, Toka, Razar, you know, the pizza monster. You know, that looks amazing. And then right across on the other side, you have another shot with some more villains like Scumbug and Anthrax and Wingnut and Screwloose. Like, this guy put a lot of work into this comic book, and it looks amazing. So I'm glad that he's doing this packaging for NECA. I think he also did the Sewer Lair cover. And hopefully we'll get some more stuff out of him because he is very talented. And I also got to mention that I really love the way he signs his name. If you turn this thing to the side, there's a nice shot here of Donatello driving the van while Raphael is shooting the side door blaster. Now, unfortunately, you know, here you're looking at the toy and it is definitely not as exciting as the cover just because it's real life and it's, you know, stationary, but that's like comparing apples to oranges, right? And then on the other side, there's just a plain shot of the turtle van just sitting there. But you know what? Once you take a look at the back, now there actually is some action shots here, and things are exciting again. All right, so first up top, it lists all the features included. It reads, the Turtles will stomp the foot flat with this mighty mobile command center. Features LED lights, rotating roof cannons, hinged doors, rubber tires, opening roof, removable laser chair, and more. Action figures sold separately. Usually that's, you know, like down here where it's small, not huge up top. So here's the first action shot, and, you know, this looks good. It's actually conveying some sort of motion here. Like you could imagine them flying down the street, you know. Maybe Raphael here is blasting at some Triceratons. Now, what's really funny here is I like Mikey, his face. How he's like smiling, like he's so happy that they're, you know, going on patrol or getting into some type of battle. Also on the cover here, there's some Easter eggs, right? Because first up here, it reads Acme Research. And Acme Research comes from the very first Ninja Turtle episode. That comes from Turtle Tracks. In that episode, April is reporting about the stolen equipment, and she ends her report right in front of Acme Research. Here you can see like Acme behind Vernon's nose. And then if you see the scene where the punks are actually moving towards April, you can actually see the full sign there. Also, I'll just throw this in here, but in the Mutant Madness coloring book, you can see the Acme Research Warehouse right there. Pretty cool. And I know this is a coloring book, but I don't know. I just got this after losing it 34 years ago. I finally have this again, as well as the How It All Began coloring book. And, you know, I gotta say, the artist, Fernando Fernandez, really paid attention to Peter Chung's design sheets or something. Because, like, some of these look just like the drawings by Peter Chung. In fact, when I first looked through it, I thought maybe Peter Chung had illustrated this, but no, Fernando Fernandez actually checks out. I think he did like fantasy art, and he's like a painter or something like that, so must give some props to that guy. Now, the other billboard here, there's like a turquoise oval there. I believe maybe that's supposed to be Pizza Groove. Pizza Groove was a pizza place the Turtles went to in season 2 in a few episodes. The pizza box for Pizza Groove was also included in the accessory set from last year. It's hard to tell because it also kind of looks like the shape of that pizza. Could it be UFO pizza? But like it's got that turquoise oval. So I don't know. I wish I could see it a little sharper. On the top right here, you have a picture of the Turtle Van roof opening up as the Ninja Turtles are about to get launched by the Turtle Launcher. Now, the Turtle Launcher is not included here, but Trevor has stated that down the line we may get accessories to go with this Turtle Van, so that would be perfect. And again, I love Michelangelo's face there because he looks terrified. Right below that, you have a picture of Donatello standing in front of his scanner. Now, I will say that Donatello does look pretty big next to that scanner. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how everything looks once I put the action figures next to the inside of this thing. Down at the bottom, you have Leonardo standing on the side door, getting ready to swipe at something with his sword. That comes from the episode Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X. That is the only episode where Leonardo does that. And of course, he uses his sword to swipe at the Techno Rover's treads. That's an amazing sequence, that battle with the rock soldiers in the Techno Rover. Why are you here? Go check out that episode. Just ignore the neutrinos. All right, so the final thing to mention is down here. You have a picture of Donatello, and it says Donatello's Techno Tips, located on bottom panel. All right, so now we get to take a look at the bottom. Here's the top. There's nothing there. The Turtle Van. All right. So on the bottom, it just has some instructions about what you can do with this van. I guess there's no sheet included. It's all right here. It tells you how to open the roof. It tells you how to pull the front off so you can put the guys in the front seats. It talks about the collapsed laser chair. I call it the side door blaster. It also talks about the tech wall. Now, the tech wall is interesting because, throughout the series, this wall is never consistent. I think the most consistent wall behind the seats is in season 10. Where they completely get rid of this. They call it the battle wall. I call this the ladder wall because there's a ladder that leads up to the sunroof where they can control the roof blasters. And then sometimes there's actually a hole in the ladder where they can jump in to get into the front seats. So this tech wall, this design right here, I'm going to have to look through my screenshots to see if I have this actual design. But like I said, once we get there to this section, I'll show the different ways they show this wall, either it being open or with the actual ladder wall. And then down here it just says, it tells you how to attach the laser chair, which I call the side door blaster. Now over here it says requires 3 1.5 volt cell batteries. What the hell is that? Is that AAA? And the best thing of all is it says batteries included. Bitchin'. That'll make me happy. And then it says director Randy Falk, Trevor Zammit, Sculpt and Fabrication Tony Cipriano, Richard Force, Paint Jeff Trapp, Mike Puzo, Prototypes Merrill Mustard. I know they worked on something else before too. Photography Matt Kloberdans. Packaging Travis Hastback. Illustrations Tim Laddie. We already talked about him. He did a great job. And that is really it. That's all we need to discuss about this box, which I will be saving because it looks pretty awesome. Now, let's take a look at the van as it's encased in its plastic membrane. Well, all right. Now we're finally getting somewhere. Here is the Turtle Van in its plastic wrapper. It's plastic prison. It's like it's encased in some ice or something like that. On this side, there's nothing, but on this other side, here you can see all of the accessories, you know. Like you have this one wall that's for behind the seats. You have, I'm pretty sure this is the ladder wall. That's the bottom of the seat. That's the back of the seat. There's the blaster, and there is the doors. It's open, and down at the bottom, you have the roof blasters. So, you know, this thing really is heavy. Holy crap. So let's, I'm just going to open this up and I will get back to you in a second. So here it is, free from the plastic boot that once locked it into place, all gassed up and ready to leave the shredder in the dust as it cruises for justice and pizza. Man, this thing is pretty sweet. Finally, after almost 37 years, Neca has made another one of our childhood dreams come true. A pretty accurate and very faithful recreation of the animated turtle van in solid 3D. Like, I can't believe I can touch this thing finally. This is probably the van a lot of you always wanted when you were a kid. Overall, I think the presentation is very nice. What paint there is nice and clean. I do think that the body of the van is coated in a matte paint. It's probably pretty thick, but there are some spots in here, like this hinge by the door, where you can see some of that wearing down. Even over here by this side door, it's starting to scrape off a little bit. So I would assume after, some wear and tear, you might start to see the plastic underneath. But for the most part, as it is, it looks pretty good. Very clean. I think painting this thing in a matte paint was the perfect way to go, because it makes this thing appear as though it's, as though it's one of the animated cells. It doesn't have any black lines on it like the action figures do, but I think that's fine because, sometimes throughout the series, you'll have the turtle van where it's sort of the painted backgrounds, and I think lots of times that makes the turtle van look nice in 3D, like really beautiful. Like, I love this shot where the back doors are open, which are obviously cell painted, but the van itself, like the majority of it, is painted. Like, that is a very cool shot. So I am going to go into this very big, thorough cartoon accuracy, right? But before I do that, I just want you to know that I'm not trying to nitpick this thing to death. Like, if anything, I'm just doing what I usually do. I'm trying to show how good of a job Neca did trying to recreate the animated van as this plastic real-life toy, because, they had a big job ahead of themselves. There's tons and tons of reference of the van, and the proportions of the van is never consistent. Even the inside of the van will change from shot to shot, not just the size, but even the details on the walls and everything like that. So it may sound like I'm complaining, but really I'm just trying to, put this toy into some perspective, as well as show off some stuff from the cartoon, because, after all, I was an animator. I love cartoons. I love talking about cartoons, and I love talking about toys. So, videos like this are very fun for me. I just don't want you to think I'm like someone who's never happy. I'm very happy. Some would say disturbed. But before I do get into the cartoon accuracy section, I do have a few criticisms, a few overall general criticisms of this thing. Number one of my viewers named Dale had commented about how he got both the Ultimates van from Super 7 and the Neca Turtle van. So he was giving me a basic what he felt about them. And he said that he thought the Neca van felt a little brittle. And I agree 100%. It definitely does. Like, everything feels a little maybe rotocast or hollow or something like that. Because, like, you tap on things and it doesn't sound very solid. Like, every single piece doesn't feel hard or anything. Like, I could imagine lots of these bits and pieces cracking down the line, especially up here. Like, you have this frame where you attach the roof, and I always have a hard time trying to get the roof back in place. As you can see here, I don't have it perfectly lined up. because you have like this very long peg, and then you have another peg back here, and then underneath the front, you have some pegs. And I just can't ever get them all in the correct spot to get this thing perfectly flat. And if you try to move the frame around, you'll hear like cracking. As you can see here, like the frame is not completely solid. Like even in these spots where there isn't a, like this is the peg hole, but right here, like it would be way better if this was all solid, but it's, you know, it's hollow. Even over here by this section, you know, just trying to save some money. Don't use that plastic, but it really would have helped this thing. Because as I said, I could definitely see this thing very prone to cracking in the future. And that brings me to the next criticism, which is pretty closely related because of the way the van is built, all the doors feel fragile. They feel weak. All right. Now, putting this chair on this door isn't that hard. And one thing I will say is when you attach the bottom of this chair to the top of the chair, don't ever pull this apart because I would imagine that this would break. You know, it is really locked into place, but you can move it from the door pretty easily and put it back on. It slides. Come on. Gotta jiggle it just a little bit. There we go. As you can see here, the door did leave some scrapes, or the chair left some scrapes on the door, but like all these doors are kept on by one hinge. You know, that is not strong enough. If you have a character in that chair and you leave it, like if you were just displaying like Raph riding in that gun chair, and over time, you can't tell me that this door wouldn't start to droop down. Like they should have maybe built some kind of, I don't know, support down here for the chair to sort of keep it in place. Cause like this feels fine, but you know, you really got to like prop this bottom up to keep that chair from drooping down. There's one hinge here and that feels somewhat solid, but the actual front doors, they feel the worst because, I mean, it really wiggles around a lot. Like there's just this little tiny hinge. Like you really needed to have two, because look at that. Like this is just one of those things where you keep opening up the doors. Eventually down the line, I could see it getting off track. Because even like when I'm trying to put it back in place, it's off track. You got to lift it up a little bit and kind of push it in there. Two hinges really would have helped this thing out. This bottom piece is okay because, you know, it's supported down here and that's not that bad. The back doors are a little hard to open. In fact, I always have to open up the top and push the doors outward because it's a very, very tight setup, which is good, I guess, because if you were rolling this thing around, the doors wouldn't flop open. But once again, one single hinge right there, and just that movement could be a problem down the line. This door over here is fine because it just hinges down like this. And most likely you're just either going to have the guys running into the turtle van with this door, or, you know, maybe you could pretend that Leonardo's standing on there as he's attacking somebody as the van is driving. The top doors also feel a little fragile, but not as bad as these front doors. Like they always crack. Every time you open them, you hear like a little bit of a cracking sound. And like sometimes they're hard to close because, like I said, if this front isn't completely lined up the right way, I could feel that it's causing some unnecessary pressure to these roof doors. Actually, you know what? I just figured out a better way of putting the roof back in place. Before I was starting in the back and moving up front. This time I started in the front and moved out back, and that actually closed up the roof very nice. You know, I have all the pieces in place, and now the top doors are closing and opening better. So, you know, take back some of my complaints, but my advice to you is when you're putting this thing back on, work from the front to the back. When you close the back doors, you pretty much got to close them both at the same time so they line up perfectly, like so. No, this one's sticking out a little bit now. And now for my biggest general criticism, and, I think this is a big one, and probably a pretty unrealistic one, but, it is what it is. I wish everything was 1 inch bigger, all right? Like, every dimension of the turtle van, I think, would have been so much better if you would have just given it, like, an inch. Was taller by an inch, wider by an inch, and longer by an inch. It just really would have helped this thing. And, like, look, I get it that this toy could never capture the inside of the van as it's portrayed in the cartoon. Sometimes it looks like, the inside of a ranch house. Like, it's just gigantic for a vehicle. And I also get that this is a toy and it's going to be a little compact, Maybe to increase the molds by an inch, it would have cost like a shitload more money, to use bigger chunks of steel to make this thing. But, like, I'm just being honest here. Like, an extra inch could have went a long way because, in my opinion, the scanner is a little undersized. It's a little lower compared to Donatello. You couldn't even really fit I guess you could fit a chair in here for him to sit down with the scanner. They should have included, it would have been cool if they would have included some kind of a chair in here. But, like, there's not a lot of room if you wanted to have, like, 2 of the guys standing next to this scanner. They're right on top of each other. Just an inch really would have helped. At least the guys can walk out the back door without hitting their heads. That's good. But if you were going to take somebody like, Casey Jones, like, he can fit in there just fine, but, like, he can't walk out the back door. But if you actually had him standing inside, that would be okay. Trying to think of who else was inside the van in the show. Oh, yes. The Shredder was in the show, too. And at one point, Rex 1 was even inside of the van. Now, you can put Rex 1 inside there if you want to, but, I mean, he completely takes up the whole thing, and, like, his head sticks out at the top, so you can't shut the door. I mean, lots of times in the show, you will have, like, 2 of the Ninja Turtles in the front, and maybe April will be in the middle, or lots of time April drives. Like, this looks fine, but if you wanted to have 2 turtles in the front and April, things get a little squished. It's not the best way to go about it. And we're going to get into the chairs because, even sometimes in the show, they go all crazy and they'll have like all 4 Ninja Turtles sitting in the front with April in between them, which is just ridiculous. How big they were making this van out to be. April looks okay in the driver's seat, but her back doesn't, sit up against the chair. There's a pretty decent amount of room here. I don't know if the newer version of April has longer arms or anything like that. I still haven't gotten that yet. I pre-ordered from Neca, but I haven't gotten her. But yeah, you can make it look like she's driving. Or if you want to, you can have one of the guys drive. And, that obviously looks way better. Like, his shell is pretty close to the seat and his hands can touch the wheel without much of a problem. Like I said, that's probably the biggest nitpicky thing that I have to say is about the inside being a little too small. Because, I mean, if you look at the action figures next to this thing on the outside, it looks perfectly fine, They all look in scale next to this thing. I actually honestly think that if you compared this thing to if you got, like, April, a normal size car, this turtle van, I think, would still be a lot bigger than that car would be. Like, it's still a massive vehicle. I guess just the inside of the van in the cartoon is a magical place that defies all physics and space. I guess I just have an impossible expectancy based off of a completely inconsistent animated object. So, originally, when Neca put the van up for pre-order, it looked a little different. It had that huge turtle hump on the roof. And as you can see here, they flattened all of that out. Other than that, though, I haven't found anything else that's different from the prototype to this final version. I guess besides the real headlights that actually light up. If you look at the dimensions that Neca included on their pre-order, it said that the van was 8 by 14 by 12. Now, with the actual toy, the 8 is kind of like from wheel to wheel. That little step down there is a little further than that, so like the back wheel is about, I don't know, like 8.5. But the body itself is closer to 7 inches. The 14 of the van is more like from the like the front of this bumper or the turtle van tire cover to the end of the back bumper. But if you look at the actual body itself, it's closer to 13. So technically it is 14 because, you know, some of these things, well, I guess if you're going from the top here to the back of the van, that's 14. So technically, the numbers match. So now let's talk a little bit about the origin of the cartoon van, because I just learned something very interesting. You know, I've wondered for years, which came first, the toy or the cartoon design? I've always leaned towards the toy because it made more sense, and because the van has like these cubes on the side, you know, it makes more sense for them to come from the toy because, you know, what reason would they have to include them on the van in the cartoon? It's obviously the spring action foot tenderizer. In the cartoon, it was used for nothing until much later when Leonardo pushed one of them to open up the door. I mean, that's really all that was ever used for. I guess it was also kind of cool whenever in Turtles Forever, the Ninja Turtles opened up the side doors, and then I guess, you know, maybe Toka got smashed into the ground with those things. Razar, too. So all the way back in January of 2022, super awesome animator and Aeon Flux creator Peter Chung released some of the character designs and model sheets, or, I don't know, design specs that he drew while he was working on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Yeah, that's right. The guy who animated Aeon Flux, the Rugrats intro, Rain, and much more was in charge of taking the toy designs from Playmates Wave 1 and turning them into their animation counterparts, as well as designing the Neutrinos and the Bebop and Rocksteady gang. I'm sure that, you know, the Technodrome with that giant eyeball was probably his choice. You know, that looks like such a Peter Chung thing. Whenever I found out that he worked on this show, I was like, yes, that reminds me of the Aeon Flux thing when the fly was getting into the eyelashes. It creeped me out. So luckily back then, Aaron Herzuri, who has been an artist on some of NECA's packaging, he asked Peter an interesting question about Krang, and Chung gave even more details. He said that the van and the blimp came from Playmates, the original designs, and then Peter turned them into this thing. And I gotta say, I think he did a spectacular job. I would dare to even say that he made the definitive turtle van. Moving the roof blasters onto the roof, you know, was so much better than how they looked on the original toy. Is the turtle launcher just his way of working in the turtle-plated flip top as a practical design? He did do some weird things, though, like, you know, he put these windows on the inside of the van, but not on the outside. What is up with that? If you go to his Instagram, you can find all these drawings and much, much more, you know, and I recommend checking it out sometime, you know. In this drawing here, you can see the sunroof flipped up and the side door looking more like the foot tenderizer. This artwork right here is amazing because you get a nice clear shot of the scanner wall and the ladder wall. What of the unseen wall? Well, that damn wall remains a bit of a mystery to me, you know. Anytime the back doors are open, you see the scanner, regardless of the angle. You know, the other wall changes a lot throughout the series, but don't worry. I know the exact other wall that they used when they were creating this toy. The front of the van looks good. I think at first there was some rumblings about the shape of this spare tire here. Like it should be more of a protruding cylinder and not this mound kind of shape. And I would say yes and no. Like, in the cartoon, it's never sticking out far enough that you'd think it's an actual tire, especially one that could support this massive van. But just like everything, the depth is never consistent. So, this looks fine to me. There definitely are some shots that look just like this. In the cartoon, the most interesting thing that I would have to say about this spare tire here is you can see the engine behind it in What's Michelangelo Good For? And also in Donatello's Bad Time. Plus, there's that model sheet that was drawn by Peter Chung. Then you have the headlights here and the turn signals. And, there's not much really to say about them on this toy. Other than there's a switch on the bottom somewhere that allows them to light up. Now here you can see the toy in the dark. That's pretty cool looking. In the cartoon, there's actually one episode where the headlights do something pretty cool. And that's in the episode Welcome Back, Polarisoids. In that episode, the headlights open to reveal water cannons, which the turtles use to stop lava balls that are thrown by the lava monsters from the cataclysmic canyons of the Vulcan moon. Jeez Louise. Down here, the original toy called this bumper the Grimacing Grill. The only thing I really have to say about this is that throughout the series, it got busted a few times, It came from beneath the sewers. The giant mutated plant from Dimension X bit it right off the van and started chewing on it. In Raphael Drives Him Wild, the van is in a large crash, and the bumper is completely gone. Then, in the Season 9 episode, Doom Quest, the van takes a beating by this villain called Doom Quest and his minion Draconis, and here the bumper falls right off by the end of the episode. Finally, in the episode Divide and Conquer, Drake tries to crush the van in a giant trash compactor, but all he does is pop a tire and partially pull off the bumper. This piece up here is just a simplified, shell-proof, armored windshield visor. This was very awesome on the old toy because you had these little windows here where the guys could peek through if they were ramming into somebody. In the cartoon, they never dropped this thing down. Not even once. All it does is work, like as an awning, I guess. The windshield is made of a very clear and clean plastic, although I did get a little scuff here. I don't know. You're going to get scuffs if you bump into anything with this, type of plastic. But, I think the installation is nice. Like, they kind of hid how it's kept in place. I think pretty good. You also have windows on the side here. See Leo in there smiling? It's a little dark, but, I don't know. It looks very nice. And, just for fun, let's talk about damage, all right? In the cartoon, in the episode Attack of the Big Mac, it looks as though Mac blasts the window, but it's never really shown what happens to the turtle van after he blasts it. Did he smash the windows? Did he blow up the front of the van? Who knows? In Rust Never Sleeps, the van is shot with the Rust Encruster. This rusts the van dead in its tracks. So the guys fly out the windows because, they're not wearing any seatbelts, of course. In Doom Quest, the windows are blown out by some creature from Doom Quest's dimension. Kind of looks like, I don't know, like some kind of mutant dragon or something. I don't know. And then in the episode Divide and Conquer, when the guys get attacked by the shapeshifter in the van, she blasts the window out before she, beats the snot out of the guys. No matter which angle you look at the van, the profile design is the same on both sides. Now here you can see in the cartoon the way the doors open. One of the door kind of hinges downward and the other one opens up the top and the bottom. But design-wise, in the show, there's nothing that differentiates the doors. I believe there's only supposed to be one side door blaster. The blaster is on the scanner side of the turtle van. I think for the most part, the scanner and the blaster show up on the driver's side of the vehicle, but every now and then it'll also appear on the passenger side. I guess, if that's just how they wanted to set the shot up. What gets weird is the side door blaster always appears on the passenger side of the vehicle, on the outside of the vehicle. And that's something that's weirdly consistent. Like, the blaster is always shown in every one of its appearances on the passenger side of the vehicle. This side door here opens up like the original toy, with the foot tenderizer. So you can add the side door blaster. Carefully. All right, there we go. So technically, the scanner should be on the inside of this wall, but if you look through the van in there, the scanner is on the opposite wall, which technically is where it should be. So in the show, here you can see Donnie attaching the seat for the side door blaster in Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X. And also in that episode, Raph shoots at the rock soldiers who are driving the Techno Rover. In It Came From Beneath the Sewers, Raph blasts the mutated plant from Dimension X's vines. He should have used it to shoot it right in the face, but he never did. And whoa, look at that. Due to a color mistake, it looks like Mikey is the one shooting the blaster. In Turtles Everywhere, Donatello uses the blaster to shoot at a robotic recycling truck, and look at that. He's shooting the gun backwards. In Attack of the Neutrinos, Leo and Raph sit side by side so they can shoot at the neutrinos in a mall. Is Raphael just offering Leonardo some emotional support? Like, why is he here? Is he teaching him how to use it? And finally, in Divide and Conquer, Leonardo shoots at Dreg all alone. Leonardo has matured. Here, there is no top half of the door, and again, Leonardo is shooting behind the van. And just for fun, in Turtles Forever, 2003, Donatello and Raphael shoot dual side door blasters. In all honesty, seeing Raphael sitting on this gigantic seat shooting the blaster, it's just awesome, Like, I absolutely love this. I feel like this is one of my childhood TMNT dreams come true. Neca! Man, you just keep on fulfilling all these cool things. When it comes to accuracy, this blaster C is actually a bit oversized in my opinion. Like I said, it's gigantic. In the cartoon, the turtle legs usually hang over the end of the seats, like the bottom halves of their legs, and maybe even sit on top of the wacko bombs down here. Now, I am perfectly fine with them making the wacko bombs permanently stuck on here, because throughout the series, they never use these things at all. And just for the sake of comparison, here is an original wacko bomb. The chair that Neca included here looks most like the chair in Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X, but it's not 100%. Like down here, the chair is rounded, but if you look at it in the cartoon, it's much more square. I also couldn't find any shots where these shapes up here are painted red, so I don't know if I'm missing that or what. In that scene, some of Raphael's expressions are just wonderful. Like this one right here, where he kind of has like an anime expression on his face. Or this one, where he looks psychotically bloodthirsty. The last thing I should mention is, as Raphael sits in this blaster seat, he looks like he's, very comfortable. Like he's relaxing as he's blasting the bad guys in the face. And when you attach the seatbelt, they just plug in down at the bottom right here. I haven't, it's been pretty easy putting him into this seat, so that's good. I never feel like I don't have enough room to reach the seatbelt to the hole. On the other side of the van, the door opens up the long way. Like so. And you can either leave it bare, or you can attach the collapsed side door blaster. There's a couple pegs here, and it just kind of pushes into place. Pretty good. If you get it right. So this toy has the scanner on this side, and you also have the collapsed blaster, which is fine because, as I said earlier, in my opinion, the blaster is on the same side as the scanner. So now here is the deal with the doors. This long door right here technically should probably always be bare, and it should be on the other side with whatever crap is on that side, all right? And the blaster should always be on the side with the scanner. The turtles, I believe, are only meant to walk out of one side of the van, this side with the long door. You know, that's a ramp for them. I have no reference of the guys ever walking down the ramp with the collapsed blaster. So I think that the side door blaster door is not ever meant to be used for, entry. It's just supposed to open so the turtles can use the side door blaster. So, in my opinion, I think the animators just got careless and didn't pay attention or didn't care, because every now and then you'll see the blaster door open, but the blaster is missing. All right. And then you have this one interesting shot from beneath the sewers where both doors are open, and the blaster door has like a square of gray in the middle of it. Like, was that supposed to be the collapsed blaster? I don't know. It's all screwed up. But some other interesting outside door things to mention. In the big blowout, Donnie pushes a button next to the door, and that opens the door. For the most part, they just grab it and pull it open, like in Sky Turtles or Attack of the Neutrinos. But in Get Shredder, Leonardo pushes one of the cubes on the side of the door, and that actually opens the doors up. In Michelangelo's Birthday, Raphael pushes a button on the inside of the van to open the door. And just to be really confusing, in The Irish Jig Is Up, the door opens like a standard car door. The side doors have also taken their fair share of damage. In New York's Shiniest, Rex 1 rips off one of the side doors. In Turtle Terminator, they smash the door into a streetlight after the Erminator shoots out their tires. In the episode Doom Quest, the van takes a beating and it ends up losing all of its doors. Raph's going to take that door home as a keepsake. A mutated Leonardo smashes the side door with a lamppost in Return of Dreg. The driver and passenger side doors look perfect. They have the same shape that appears in the cartoon. Even some of the shapes down here around the wheels, that's all the same. They open up sort of easily. You just gotta put your finger under there and pull them open like this. You do have like that indent there for the handle in the cartoon. And in the cartoon, most of the times when they open up these front doors, they do like open up almost parallel to the front of the van. These side door armrests look pretty much just like Peter Chung's designs on those initial design papers. And I know like it's later on in the series, but you can see them pretty clearly in the episode Divide and Conquer, as well as many others. But, that's the best one I have, in my opinion. Both sets of wheels look fine. And, there's not really much to say about them. They're pretty plain, These are made out of real rubber. And this one, I think, back here, or maybe on the other side, it was actually off the rim a little bit, but it was pretty easy to put it back on there. The wheels roll really nice, so that's good. Because you're going to do a lot of playing with this thing, right? Are you going to play with your van like you did when you were a kid? Like, have all your villains at the end of your foyer, and then you put the Ninja Turtles in the van, and you just throw it down, and it rolls really quick on the linoleum and knocks them all out. You did it. Maybe not the Turtle van, but maybe the Ecto-1 or the Batmobile. You did it. Admit it. In the cartoon, there's a couple of times when the wheels take some damage. In Turtle Terminator, the robot Irma shoots out the front wheel, and after it crashes, all of the wheels look damaged. In Doom Quest, the wheels fall off. And in Divide and Conquer, Dreg uses a giant trash compactor to crush one of them. And that's it, One thing that would be really cool is if you could add, like, hydraulic lifts to the bottom of the turtle van. Like, if you could actually remove the wheels and attach these poles. That's from the episode White Belt, Black Heart. But from what I've been told, there's no way to remove these wheels. I think maybe somebody said the screw is behind the rim here, so you can't get to it, unfortunately. The back of the van looks perfect. The doors have the correct shape and, the correct handles. As I said before, though, I have a hard time opening these ones other than going in through the top and pushing them outward. The brake lights and the turn signals look great. Holy crap! I didn't even know this, but when you turn the headlights on, the backlights turn on too. Check it out. Beep, 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 beep. Take out bebop. But I gotta say, I can't believe the guys drove around the city without a license plate. That's illegal. So was there any backdoor damage? Well, you bet. In Doom Quest throws a rock at the back doors and completely knocks them off, all right? In the beginning of the end, some of Dreg's minions blast the back doors, and seriously, the van takes a beating in these last 3 seasons. In Mobster from Dimension X, the Globfather takes control of the van, and he uses one of the interior blasters to shoot out the back doors. Hang on, Donnie! Be careful! Moving up top, you of course have these giant turn signals or fog lights. What are these? I don't really have anything of note to say about these. But here, in the middle, you have this radar dish. In the show, this dish spins around, very rarely, as Donatello uses the scanner to track someone. Off the top of my head, I can only think of Leonardo Renaissance Turtle, but I know it's done in a few other episodes. I have to go back and check. It's really not that important. The only interesting thing that this dish does is in the episode Venice on a Half Shell. In that episode, Krang tries to transport a molecular wave intensifier to the shredder, but inside the turtle van, Donatello uses his computers to create a strong magnetic field, which pulls the molecular wave intensifier to the turtle van. All right? The wave, the magnetic field, actually comes out of this dish right up top. All right, so now on to some fun stuff. And first, we're going to start with the roof hatch, as it's called on Peter Chung's design papers, or as I like to refer to it, the sunroof. All right, because it opens up. And this is the, major misstep for me. I feel like this should have been removable. Maybe you could pop this out. I understand that you couldn't really get it to work like a regular rollover door, but I mean, just, make it so that you could pull that right out of there. Since the Turtle Van's first appearance, the Turtles have used the hatch, or sunroof, to either plan out their battle strategy, or, more importantly, peek out as they shoot the roof blasters. Kind of like a tank. There's even one episode where Donatello uses a scope, but in this one he's actually shooting grappling hooks instead of the blasters. I mean, grappling hooks are actually getting shot out of the roof blasters. This section of the roof is right above the ladder wall. In the episode 20,000 Leagues Under the City, the guys actually climb this ladder and use the sunroof to, reach the roof. That's a great Turtle Van episode, by the way. If you've never seen it, you should check it out, because a lot of that episode just takes place inside the Turtle Van. Another funny use of the sunroof is in the episode The New Mutation. In that episode, they open the hatch, and instead of the turtle launcher working like it usually does, Mikey just gets shot right through the hole and up into the air. Now, to be honest, this hole is like way too small. Like you could never fit the Ninja Turtle's body through it, even if you could remove it. But it kind of would, I think you could fit his head through at least, you know? So it would have been cool to be able to just peek his head through that hole. That way he could survey the battle that's taking place and maybe guide Raphael to, I don't know, drive a certain way. Or you could just pretend that he's actually looking out and firing the blasters at the bad guys. I mean, now you just have this ladder wall and, you know, the turtle's got no place to go. Another one of my favorite sunroof ladder wall scenes is in the episode Divide and Conquer. In Season 10, they got rid of the ladder wall altogether and actually tightened up the model inside the van. It had a consistent dash, 2 rows of seats, and like I said, no wall. So Leo actually has to jump up and pull himself into the sunroof space. So is he just hanging on for dear life as he's shooting at Dreg? Like, who the hell came up with this? Now, the roof blasters. These look fantastic. What's really nice is you can actually move them around to aim them at whatever threat is coming after the guys. Back in the old party van days, you know, they put them on top of the lights and the mirrors, which was kind of weird. And they called them dual CB antenna machine guns. In the cartoon, there's some slight variations with this design, but I think they kept it pretty close. You know, all the different segments, all the different designs. It's very, very close. I think down the line it'd be really cool if Neca included some kind of, I don't know, roof blaster effect. For now, though, I just use straws. One thing to point out is, in the series, like I have seen this this design here where the outside is green like this, but for the most part, it's usually solid gray. All 3 bits, this, the middle, and that side. And then the sunroof is, you know, green like the rest of the roof. In the cartoon, the roof blasters are actually used less than you'd think. If you want a more technical name, Donatello calls them the turtle cannons in the episode Superhero for a Day. In the episode Enter the Fly, Splinter uses the roof blasters to shoot the weapons out of Bebop and Rocksteady's hands in order to save the turtles from certain doom. He also fires at the Shredder's feet, which causes him to drop the Gazai plant. In Superhero for a Day, Donatello uses the blasters to shoot grappling hooks over a bridge so Mikey can attach them to a school bus that's about to fall into the river, and then Leo backs the van up and saves all the kids. In Welcome Back Polarisoids, the turtles use the blasters to shoot water at some lava monsters from the cataclysmic canyons of the Vulcan moon. They just melt away. I gotta mention, one thing I think that's funny in this episode is they actually use some, I assume, stock anime footage of a human. You know, he doesn't look very Fred Wolf Ninja Turtle to me. In Season 7, after 5 years from Enter the Fly, the turtles use the roof blasters to shoot at the Triceratons. But, of course, they don't hit any of them, and then they drive the van into a crater in the road. In Mobster from Dimension X, the Globfather takes control of the van, and he uses the blasters to shoot down a tower, and that causes Mikey to drive uncontrollably and smash into some other cars. And the day the Earth disappeared, the turtles charge after Lord Dreg and some of his minions, while Raph shoots the blasters. No, of course they don't hit any of them, and Raph even points the barrels directly at Dreg's face, but then Dreg teleports away. Maybe next time, Raph. Finally, in Divide and Conquer, during the climactic battle with Dreg, Leonardo uses the blasters to shoot at Dreg, which gives Donatello and Michelangelo the upper hand so they can throw him and Krang's android body into another dimension just as it's about to explode. Moving on, just like in the show, the turtle van roof opens up. It's to reveal the heroes inside. Now, what will be very interesting to see is in the future, Trevor has said that they may release accessories for the turtle van, and one of the things he was kind of hinting at was the turtle launcher. So it'll be interesting to see how you can plug a turtle launcher onto this thing. Right now, if you look in the top, you'll see that the Ninja Turtles, they're a little too big to fit the hole as it is. So maybe the turtle launcher will sit on top of the van and you could kind of stick them on top of it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. As I said, it's a little tight in there, when you try to stick all 4 guys in the back. I don't really recommend that. So throughout the series, there's been a few different turtle launchers or catapults, but I hope we get the one from the intro. That one's pretty cool. And, that's the same turtle launcher from Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X, where it looks as though the entire floor is spring-loaded to launch the guys into the air. As I said, Donnie calls it a turtle launcher, but on Peter Chung's design sheets, he called it the Turtle Van Ejector Platform. I love the way he drew the turtles here, too. They look so cool. So, the guys get launched into the air in the amazing intro of the show. Here, the roof opens just like this toy opens. The inside of the van looks completely different. The platform itself is very detailed, and the launcher only appears like this one other time. I already mentioned it, but in Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X, the turtles use the launcher to shoot themselves up into the air so that they can board the Neutrino's Star Cruiser. Here again in this episode, the roof opens just like this toy does. Next, we sort of get the same design, but it's a little half-assed. In the episode Incredible Shrinking Turtles, Splinter uses the turtle launcher to hurl himself into a fight with the Shredder. Here the roof opens the same, and it looks like the platform is most likely the floor, but all detail is cut from this, and now it's just kind of like a circle on a very big spring. The next turtle launcher appearance is in the episode What's Michelangelo Good For? This one is pretty weak, I gotta say, but after the turtle van breaks down in this episode, you see a segment of the roof attached to a spring as the turtles are working on the van. No one is launched, and the launcher is nothing like it was. I mean, the roof isn't even open. It's just that one little bit there. Next, in Donatello's Bad Time, some of the turtles get on top of the van so they can try to stop the bad family who have stolen the van from Donatello. So the mother of the bad gang, Bedelia Bad, hits a switch which catapults the guys off of the roof. This one works a little bit like the broken catapult that we saw in What's Michelangelo Good For? The turtle van is in a disguise, so maybe you can count this as something else, but I don't know. To me, this is the turtle launcher. Next in the episode, Zack and the Alien Neutrinos, Mikey and Don use the catapult to launch themselves into a military school where Zack, the fifth turtle, is being held captive. Here, the entire roof hinges back to reveal an actual catapult. So this launcher is very, very different from what we've seen in the past. Finally, in the new mutation, we don't get to see any kind of platform at all, or the turtle launcher, or anything. All that happens is the sunroof opens up and Mikey is blasted up into the air. One interesting thing about this vehicle is 2 pieces of the roof can be removed to reveal some holes. It's this segment right here. You can pop it out and there's a big hole right here. And there's another one on the other side that you can remove, So, TMNT mega fan Rin Ryo Oki, I think that's how you pronounce his name. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, buddy. He told me that he thinks that these holes could be used to attach the ice cream truck disguise from Donatello's Bad Time. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe this has something to do with the turtle launcher in the future. I don't know. Throughout the series, the turtle van was only put into 2 different disguises. You have the ice cream truck design that was used in Donatello's Bad Time. And then you also have construction arrows from the episode Corporate Raiders from Dimension X. I bet you could probably come up with a way to snap that onto the van too. That'd be pretty cool. Seriously though, nobody's gonna fall for this disguise. I mean, the van still has a turtle-styled roof, and on the front, there's the the spare tire that, has the turtle logo on it. Now, one thing I think that's funny is in this shot, they forgot to paint the back side of that arrow box. Now, here's some other things they could potentially attach to these holes here. There's a grappling hook launcher in Attack of the 50-Foot Irma. And there's also another grappling hook launcher in the episode Turtles, Turtles Everywhere. In 50-Foot Irma, Donatello pulls this steering wheel lever to use the grappling hooks. Maybe you could somehow attach the net nabber from the episode Leonardo Lightens Up. They use that to try to capture Leonardo. There's also a roof cannon that the turtles use in State of Shock to shoot a bomb into the air so it doesn't explode on the ground. And just for the hell of it, here's some other roof abilities, but I don't know how they could do any of these, especially with how solid this roof is. In a real snow job, they attach their skis onto the roof, and there's a different dish in the middle of the roof there. And I can't tell, but what are those white things in that tray looking thing or basket? I don't know what that is. Leonardo also uses a periscope in this episode after he pushes this button on the dash. But again, I don't know how they could attach that to the roof of this thing. In Venice on a half shell, Donatello pushes a button to create a ramp, and that sends Bebop and Rocksteady up into the sky. In Donatello's Bad Time, a smoke screen tube pops out of this back shell segment right here. And that's really it for all of the roof gadgets. You, of course, have the super spoiler here. And, all of the animators that worked on this show could thank Peter Chung for not including the Ninja Turtle logo. Leaving it blank like this made it so much easier for them to animate. After that, was there any specific damage done to the roof? Yes. In the episode The Return of Dreg, a mutated Leo bashes the van with a streetlight or a lamppost. Really bangs the crap out of this thing. Next up, you have the Turtle Van underside. You actually get to see the underside every now and then in the series. Sometimes you'll see a worm's eye view of it as the van drives over the camera, like in It Came From Beneath the Sewers, or Doom Quest, or The Day the Earth Disappeared. But most of the time, you see it because the van got pushed over. It flipped over in Sky Turtles. It's pretty cool looking. That's another cool episode. I like that one a lot. In Get Shredder, the Dimension X villain, Berserker, shot the van while it was speeding away, and that caused it to turn over on its side. In Enter Krakus, it was pushed over by a mutant. In Doom Quest, the minion Draconis rammed the side of the van and knocked it over. Man, this thing is top heavy. And here's one more. As the van is racing to save the turtles in Sleuth on the Loose, you can see it jump in the air. So, which underside does it look like the most? Well, it looks like a mix of Sky Turtles, because here you can see, you have these two circles right here. And you also have these, two plates in front of the front axle. But for the most part, it looks like the underside from the very last episode, Divide and Conquer. In fact, it almost looks exact. The van does have a muffler, but you don't see it too often. just every now and then. But here's a few interesting underside abilities. I'm sure you were dying to hear this. In Welcome Back Polarisoids, the van is shot with some footage from the Floatarian dimension. You got to see that one. That one's a funny one too, with Fripp's video camera. So that causes the turtle van to hover in the air, and the turtles use an underside grappling hook to keep them from floating up into outer space. In Too Hot to Handle, the temperature gets so hot the ground begins to melt. So Mikey turns on the instant freeze spray jets to freeze the road. Now it's completely solid and they can drive on it. So before we get to the inside of the van, here's just a few other things I should mention. If Neca wanted to, they could eventually sell you a parachute accessory. You can see one come out of the back doors in Donatello's Bad Time. There's also one that comes out of a roof segment in A Real Snow Job. And there's another one that comes out of the top in Divide and Conquer. The Divide and Conquer one is bland and boring, but the Donatello's Bad Time one is pretty cool, because it's a turtle shell. Another thing in Donatello's Bad Time is one of the van's defense mechanisms is a set of hands that throws mud missiles. Now, you could fake something like this, with them coming out of the side door, but you don't have the portholes inside of the van to make them completely accurate. The van has a skinny van mechanism, so it can squeeze between buildings. Obviously, we're not going to get that unless NECA decides to release a skinny van by itself, which would be just hilarious. Or maybe you could take a sledgehammer and smash the shit out of this thing. Although I wouldn't recommend it. I bet this thing will be valuable one day. Your kids could sell it when you're dead for $1 million. Through the show, the van turned into different types of vehicles. In 20,000 Leagues Under the City, Donatello used it as an amphibious vehicle. And in Donatello's Bad Time, he showed the other guys that it had hovercraft capabilities. But, they don't last. Even though one was on top of the water and the other one was floating in the air, they had the same exact model, all right? With the wheels, turning downward. Because these wheels are unremovable, you can't really do that. But maybe you could, what if they released something that you could actually, plug in on top of the wheel? That would be kind of cool. It'd be neat if they could try to pull something like that off, where instead of removing the wheel, you actually cover it up with a plastic cover, and it has another, just a plastic painted wheel to make it appear as though the wheels have turned downward. In Pirate Radio, the van opened up to reveal some pontoons, so the van could become a speedboat, and there's even a propeller in the back. I don't know how you could attach some pontoons to this thing, but in Venice in a Half Shell, the van used different pontoons to lift itself out of the water, so the heroes could chase after Bebop and Rocksteady in a speedboat. Like I said, same idea, but two different designs. I prefer the Pirate Radio design. In Super Irma, the van turns into a submarine. For this one, you would need a whole new vehicle. The spoiler has separated and moved. There's a periscope area on top of the roof. The wheels are completely gone, and it has fins. It's got itself a set of propellers, and here is the underside of the submarine van. And one final thing to mention is the turtles shoot torpedoes out of the bottom of this thing, so they can open up the door to get inside the Technodrome. Finally, in A Real Snow Job, Donatello turns the van into a snowmobile. The front wheels have treads, and now there's two wheels in the back. I really love this design. I'm a big snow guy myself, so I think it'd be cool to have something like this, but I just don't think they would be able to replicate this design with this the van that we have. And now, let's take a peek inside. So here is the dashboard, and this is accurate to at least one of the designs seen throughout the series. It's pretty close to the original Peter Chung design, but it's a bit simplified. For one thing, all of the levers and switches are completely missing. You also don't have that super exaggerated steering column. And I would say that original Peter Chung design showed up through at least seasons 1 through 4. And the closest that you probably see this, like almost exact design, is in Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X. If you were wondering, do the guys ever pull any of those switches or levers or anything like that? Well, in the episode Attack of the 50-Foot Irma, Donatello pulls one of those levers to open up the roof grappling hooks. I should also mention that throughout seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, they did draw the steering wheel by itself sometimes. So, this toy is, accurate. My favorite steering wheel design is the one in season 5, where they turn the horn into a turtle face. So here's where things are going to get overwhelming, all right? Here is the dash in the intro. Here it is in the Incredible Shrinking Turtles, but man, it is off, to say the least. Here in Mean Machines, it appeared kind of like Chung's design. And Attack of the Big Mac, it's a little off again. And, I really don't have any clear reference of the dash looking on model, exactly like Peter Chung's design, until season 3's Michelangelo's birthday. You got the green radar screen with the 3 circle buttons to the side of it. The episode Turtle Terminator follows suit. It's pretty similar. Just look how absurd this steering column is in Michelangelo Toys Around. Jeez. Same thing with Turtle Maniac. Now, one thing you'll notice in these season 3 and season 4 episodes is those ridges on the dash go up and down and not left to right like this toy does. Here's another dash from What's Michelangelo Good For that looks completely different. In the Big Cufflink Caper, one of the most interesting designs is shown because the shifter is down on the armrest. That is completely different. In season 5, things tighten up a bit, and you see this toy design almost exact in the episode Donatello's Bad Time. You can see all the yellow lights or buttons on the top, and the white gauge and red switches. Even the radar screen is the same with the 3 buttons. If you were wondering, Donatello pushes one of those buttons to turn on the skinny van mechanism. But then sometimes when Bedelia Bad is driving the van, it looks similar, and then other times, not so much. And one of the Bad brothers pushes one of those buttons to deploy the parachute in this episode. The biggest omission from this episode is all of these defense buttons right here on the dash. All of these do different things, like turn on the smoke screen or turn on the mud missile hands. Mikey also hits this button in Too Hot to Handle to turn on the van's instant freeze spray jets. And I believe this button is supposed to be on the dash in Super Irma. It looks like it probably is on the dash, especially when you think about where Donatello is in this scene. And this button here turns the van into a submarine. Here's a pretty clear shot of the dash from Napoleon Bonafrog, Colossus of the Swamps. Here they added more switches under the radar. Or, is that like a map screen? I'm not sure about that. Is that GPS? In this episode, that top right button there turns on the smoke screen. Big mistake. Donatello also pushes one of these gray switches to turn on the hovercraft capabilities. In the season 4 episode, Leonardo lightens up. It looks like Donatello pushes a switch like this to shoot the net nabber. Moving on, this shape right here is actually supposed to be a television. It looks the closest to this toy design in Beware the Lotus. In Incredible Shrinking Turtles, the setup is completely different, but you still have that television on the dash. In Beyond the Donatello Nebula, there's a TV behind the seats, which is, weird. In Zack and the Alien Invaders, the design is similar, but still very different. And then at the end, you have a glove compartment. And this shot from The Big Blowout is really the only reference I have of that. In A Real Snow Job, the dash looks completely different. That green button opens up the periscope. Here's another shifter from Night of the Dark Turtle. I know I said they tightened up the dash design in Season 5, but look at this dash from the Season 5 episode, Donatello's Duplicate. It's freaking gigantic. Donatello uses this to track down his clone, but he doesn't have any luck. Seriously, this dash is insane. Donatello actually says that huge thing there is his digital feedback scanner. Here's a shot of the dash through an open door in Enter Krakus. Quite possibly one of my favorite designs of the dash is in Season 10. In that season, they changed the model inside the van and mostly stuck to it throughout all of those episodes. Here you can see they added gauges that are attached to the radar. Mikey pushes one of these gray switches right here in Divide and Conquer to deploy the parachutes. I like the TurtleCom screen right on the dash. It has a few functions. They can use it to talk to April. In beginning of the end, there's a keyboard under the TurtleCom. So Mikey actually uses it to get onto the internet, which is kind of crazy. Also in that episode, it displays autopilot when Raphael puts the van onto autopilot. In Mobster from Dimension X, Raph has to destroy it. He has to destroy the dash to destroy the computer in the van because the Glob father had taken control of the van and was trying to kill them. But, I'm just kind of pointing that out there. That look there. You can see what's inside the dash. Down on the bottom, you can see that they included some pedals. Do they look like any of the animated pedals? No, not really. Here's the pedals in It Came From Beneath the Sewers. The pedals from Mean Machines are probably the closest. Attack of the 50-Foot Irma just looks cool, in my opinion. Big Blowout is just plain pedals. What's Michelangelo good for? Nothing to mention here. My Brother, the Bad Guy, has a Turtlefoot gas pedal. Same as what's seen in Too Hot to Handle. Here's Behind the Pedal in Northern Lights Out. The split second pedals are just kind of weird. And as I said before, Season 10 was pretty consistent. So the pedals in Episode 1, Return of Dreg, they look pretty much just like the pedals in the final episode, Divide and Conquer. Now let's talk about the seats and the back of the ladder wall. This is one of the most inconsistent designs I've ever seen in any show. For the most part, in seasons 1 through 3, there's one long seat, right? Sometimes all 4 turtles can sit next to each other on that seat. Sometimes April can sit with them, which is just ridiculous. How big is this vehicle? Sometimes there's a wall right behind the seats, and other times it appears as though there's enough space for the turtles to at least crouch behind the seats. But, there's only one row of actual seat there. Sometimes in the same episode, there will actually be a wall right behind the seats, and then other shots, it's not there. As I said, never consistent. In my reference, the earliest example of 2 rows of seats is in the episode What's Michelangelo Good For? That's Season 4. Also in Season 4, the episode The Big Cufflink Caper, there's 2 rows of seats, but they're all disconnected. Here's the seats in Beyond the Donatello Turtle Nebula. And here's 2 rows of seats in the turtle and the hare. This design doesn't stay, however, because in season 5, for a few episodes at least, there's only 1 row of seats. In the episode Napoleon Bonafrog, there's some shots with 1 row of seats and then 2 rows of seats. Like, make up your damn mind, animators. In Pirate Radio, there's 2. In Raphael, Turtle of 1,000 Faces, there's 1. The wall behind them can be pretty detailed or completely plain. I like the rollover door in Michelangelo Meets Bugman. That, to me, makes the most sense. That design looks good in Raphael Knocks 'Em Dead, where it kind of looks like there's a wall behind the seats, but there's also an opening for the turtles to go back and forth if they want to. This idea is fully realized in the episode A Real Snow Job, where you can actually see Mikey going back and forth between the front to the back in order to get some pizza. This, to me, is how this wall should always be designed. This is what it should always be. Maybe they got to squeeze in between the ladder steps or something like that to get to the back, but at least you have an explanation of what's going on with the ladder and the wall behind the seats. In Venice on a Half Shell, the front has some off-model designs on the walls. Those are supposed to be in the back of the van. After the vacation episodes and the proper season 7 episodes begin, they go back to only having 1 row of seats. And then in season 9, we finally go back to 2 in Split Second and Doom Quest. Season 10 comes through again, making a consistent model with 2 rows of seats. Just don't think about it when you look at the van from the outside, because, it just doesn't make any sense how big this thing should be. One of the greatest battles you'll find in any episode is the episode Divide and Conquer. In that episode, the guys fight a shapeshifter alien inside the van, and she rams the 2 rows of seats into each other. And like I said, one of the coolest scenes throughout the whole series. Poor Mikey can't even drive the van with this massive distraction crushing him from behind. The final thing we need to discuss before we get to the back is the ceiling of the front of the van. The ceiling changes in almost every single episode. This one that they included here looks a lot like the ceiling in Beneath These Streets. But there is also a light in Mean Machines. Sometimes the ceiling can be very plain. I like how it looks in Michelangelo's Birthday a lot. It looks very 3D. I think that's pretty cool. The Star Child, the ceiling looks pretty good. And I would say that in Doom Quest, I don't know, it looks pretty awesome. All right, so now we get to talk about the active side of the ladder wall and the rest of the back of the van. I can't wait! So here is the ladder wall that Neca provided with this turtle van. If you look at Peter Chung's initial artwork, you'll see that it's pretty close to this accessory. I think they did a good job trying to match what was seen in the show. There are some things that don't line up, but we'll get to that. You have this indent here with the gray, the crooked pipe up here, the circle switch, or what, I don't know, you turn that thing on the top right of the ladder. All of those were included on the original artwork. Right below that, you have 2 sections that are kind of indented, and there's some switchboards and some buttons, and I don't know, those black circles to me always kind of look like speakers. Those are on this vehicle, but they're dialed back a little bit. They're a little more simple than the original design. The box within a box, this X shape, and these 2 knobs are what are these things? You turn them down here. So that's all here on this toy. It all looks pretty close, pretty good. Some of the things are just a little off, but I got to give it to Neca. I think they did a fantastic job. The biggest difference that you'll notice, however, is that Peter drew these tanks down here on the bottom left as, I assume, fire extinguishers, but Neca made them missiles. All right. So, that's a pretty big difference. I mean, they were pretty much almost always drawn as tanks. I don't think I've ever seen any reference of them actually looking like missiles or bombs or whatever you want to call them. So I don't know. That's just maybe they didn't notice that. Throughout my life, I've actually been a little confused about the ladder wall. Like, I always pictured this as the back doors of the van for some reason. I think it's because of the inconsistency of the wall being behind the chairs or the seats. Like, I always just think that there shouldn't be a wall of anything there. So, but yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense now, because if you look at the top of the ladder wall, you see like some cylinders there, which are sort of the bases of the roof blasters. It would have been kind of cool if they made that space behind the ladder steps removable. That way you could sort of make it look like the van in a real snow job, kind of like the rollover door design. But they didn't. And to be fair, that space is just not big enough to actually fit, a Ninja Turtle through, or probably it'd be hard to like stick their head through the hole, through like above the seats. Quite possibly the best episodes who feature the ladder wall is the episode 20,000 Leaks Under the City. And that one, the guys spend a lot of time inside of the turtle van, so you get to see all the walls nice and clear. And they actually use the ladder to climb up to the roof of the van. It's pretty great. And in that episode, the wall is very similar to Peter Chung's original design. There's a few modifications, but, it's very close. Another thing I wanted to point out is in the episode Usagi Yojimbo, there's like, you see those switches there in that like switchboard or whatever? They kind of put that design on the wrong wall. Just thought it was kind of interesting to point that out, because I don't even notice those switches most of the times I watch these episodes. The other best ladder wall episode is A Real Snow Job, because I've said this before, but you can actually see very clearly the hole in the wall where the turtles can go in and out from the front to the back. Also, this design over here is used as a pizza oven in that episode. One thing that makes me laugh a little is one of the first times we actually see the ladder wall. It's like shrunken in the episode Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X. Like, that's just kind of funny. Here's the wall in The Mean Machines. In Splinter No More, you can see it in blue, and you can also see the van without that wall, as Mikey and Raph crouch behind the seats. Or maybe they're, I don't know, crouched in that little space between the seats and the wall itself. Who knows? For more shots in Season 3, here's one from Corporate Raiders from Dimension X, and another from Michelangelo's Birthday. In the Season 4 episode, Turtles of the Jungle, you can see some more close-ups of the wall. But here, those switches should be more defined. Same deal in Menace Maestro. In the episode Raphael Knocks Him Dead, you get even more confusion, because here you have the opening between the seats and the back, which is, perfect. But on the other side, there's no ladder wall. In the Season 5 episode, Donatello's Bad Time, I found that tech wall that Neca included here with this vehicle. This is the only shot that I've ever seen of this tech wall. And as you can see, they had to work it out a little bit to make this accessory. There was some spots missing. Here's a blue ladder in Artless. Here's a pretty faithful picture in the Season 8 episode Wrath of the Rat King. But then literally 4 seconds later, there's no wall at all. In Split Second, the design is flipped. And in Doom Quest, you can see it pretty quickly. And then, there's other shots of the wall throughout the series. But, there's not really much more to say. That is until you get to Season 10, when they revamped the Turtle Van interior. They completely removed the wall and included 2 rows of seats. The funniest thing that I want to point out about this is in the episode Divide and Conquer, Leonardo has to use the roof blasters, right? So there's no ladder wall in this episode. So what does he do? Well, he jumps up and he pulls himself up there, right? So is he just like hanging on for dear life as he's shooting the blasters at Dreg? Like, that's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But let's take a look at the Ninja Turtles next to the ladder wall. Now, you can actually get their hands on the ladder steps, but it's not that easy because there's not a lot of space behind them, and they feel a little brittle. And I could see either popping them out of whatever spot they're in or even cracking them if the grip of the Ninja Turtle is too tight. I don't know. I feel like it's a touchy area. Up next is the scanner wall, and please bear with me here because it's a little difficult to try to get good angles of this thing, plus also light it appropriately because the other walls of the van just keep getting in the way. But this thing looks very cool. I like it. I think the detail is good. It does look a little squished in this spot. Usually in the cartoon, the scanner wall or the scanner is very wide. But if you stand Donatello next to this one, he looks pretty big compared to it. Throughout the series, Donatello usually sits in front of this thing, so, maybe it would look better if they included a chair that he could sit in. It also really kind of bugs me that the screen isn't centered here. Like my OCD is screaming in my head, like, why isn't it centered? Up top, you have those 3 TV screens, and those screens in the series can be used to watch TV. In Menace Maestro Please, Mikey actually uses a remote control to turn on to Channel 6 News. Neca included 3 on top of here, but for the most part, throughout the series, there's usually only 2. Right here is the first time you get a close-up of the scanner in Hot Riding Teenagers from Dimension X. The top controls are a little different than this vehicle. You can see the screen and the telephone, but the buttons are on the opposite side. The red bars running down the side are here, and the red light on the right is there. But unfortunately, this scanner wasn't big enough to have the light on the left side of the screen. The under area matches more than the top area because you got the cylinders here, you got those 3 tubes going down on the right, the long one up top and the 2 shorter ones side by side on the bottom. The biggest exclusion is this vehicle doesn't have these rods at the controls. These, always make it look as though Donatello is pulling on ladder steps in order to control the scanner. I don't really understand what they're supposed to do. But those bars, usually show up there. Only every now and then do you actually have buttons on this thing. I think the best example of that is in the episode Casey Jones. In Casey Jones, there's shots with the rods and then others with these type of buttons. I bet that this is where NECA got this button layout from. Buttons also appear in Leonardo Lightens Up, but man, is that all off model. I gotta mention, even though Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X had some on-screen scanner shots, there are also some shots in that episode where the scanner looks completely different. This shot right here from Beyond the Donatello Nebula is kind of funny because the ladder wall is like parallel with the scanner, like they kind of screwed this up. The scanner is included in Donatello's Bad Time in a couple different variations, like this one. In Muckman Messes Up, the design is very different. In Napoleon Bonafrog, the wall changes drastically from shot to shot. This one here has buttons. In Pirate Radio, there's a few variations with the buttons, as well as a scene where Krang calls them, and now the scanner looks like a TV screen. Donatello uses a knob here to reverse the effects of the Shredder's ventriloquator in that episode. And here in Raphael, Turtle of 1,000 Faces, here's another shot of the scanner. Here's a nice overall shot in Leonardo is Missing, again with buttons. The vacation episodes get weird. In Rust Never Sleeps, the scanner is completely different. Seriously, what the hell's going on here? In a real snow job, Donnie uses this lever to make the parachute pull the van out of a rift in the snow. That's not the same lever that he uses to release the parachute. That would be this thing right here, whatever the hell that is. In Venice on a Half Shell, there's like 3 different designs. Some are similar, but some are just completely off. And I also really like the blue design in the episode Artless. In The Irish Jig Is Up, those windows on the sides of the screen are kind of like protruding shapes. But this scanner console has like buttons and rods. In Northern Lights Out, there's a scanner behind the guys and in front of them. Then the wall behind them sort of turns into the ladder wall. Like, seriously, it's kind of amazing how things just keep on changing from shot to shot in these episodes. In The Star Child, the scanner has like a green color and just a bunch of buttons. There's also a police scanner on the console. I actually like the backgrounds in this episode, as well as the backgrounds in White Belt Black Hearts. The episode Dirk Savage has similar designs as well. In State of Shock, Donatello opens up this bottom area to reveal some sort of trash ejector. He pushes a button next to the phone to shoot a bomb up into the sky so it can explode safely. In The Wrath of Medusa, the backgrounds just look a little sterile or something. Like, they're very boring. Here's Donatello sitting in the New Mutation. And then in the episode Split Second, the scanner is just kind of like all wonky. I don't know what's up with that. Here's a weird one from the beginning of the end. Here's Mobster from Dimension X, where the scanner turns into a TV screen. And finally, one scanner from Divide and Conquer. When the Turtles first steal the Turtle Van from Baxter in A Thing About Rats, Donatello says the inside is filled with beam generators and frequency tracers. So I guess maybe he turned those into the blasters in the scanner. I don't know. After he finishes turning Baxter's van into the Turtle Van in the episode Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X, he says that he filled it with all the weapons that he could think of and surveillance gear. Also, Donnie first named the scanner in the episode Mean Machines. That's the first time he called it, I'll hook it up to the Turtle Van scanner. Alright, so the scanner screen itself can be used as either a scanner or a TV screen. To be honest with you, I've been thinking about it. I bet that's just like an inconsistency. I bet those like TV screens on the top were always just supposed to be the TV screen and the scanner is supposed to be, you know, a scanner, but the animators or whoever was doing the storyboards at the time just figured, screen, I can put TV on that. The scanner can also be used to analyze stuff, but you don't always see what's happening. I know Donnie used the scanner to analyze some seaweed in Turtle Terminator, and he also studies Dreg's vortex crystal from afar. He's like, you know, across the road and they're in the Turtle Van, and somehow he's able to study it from there. Here's Irma on the screen. Here's Donnie tracking some foot soldiers in Usagi Yojimbo. Here's Donnie talking to April in Planet of the Turtles. Here's Donatello tracking Raph in Raphael Knocks Him Dead. Here's Donatello tracking Leonardo in Leonardo Lightens Up. Man, this guy is like a stalker, you know, let your brothers have some space. The screen in Muckman Messes Up is kind of strange to me. Like, that blip there doesn't fit. Like, it looks like too harsh compared to the animation. I like all the shapes you see in Napoleon Bonafrog. those look pretty cool on the radar. Here's one from DoomQuest, and another one from DoomQuest. And here's one from the beginning of the end. All right, so these shapes right here, in my opinion, they're supposed to be windows. They look like windows. They're painted to look like windows. The only problem is there's no windows on the outside of the van. I believe that, when Peter Chung was designing this thing, for some reason, he looked at the shapes on the Playmates toy, put them in here, but then for whatever reason, just didn't put them on the outside. Maybe he wanted a sleek design. I don't know. I don't understand it. So most of the time, these things are painted blue. As I said, I think that's supposed to signify like the sky, Sometimes these shapes, though, kind of look like metal plates or something. So, maybe they weren't paying attention. But, finally, after like 10 years, in the episode Mobster from Dimension X, in one scene, these shapes are left unpainted. And you can actually see the background moving. In my opinion, that's a big win for all the window people like me. I know of 2 times that this phone was used throughout the series. In Raphael Knocks 'Em Dead, April talks to Byrne. He actually calls her in the turtle van. I don't know how we got the number. And then in Mobster from Dimension X, Donatello calls the Globfather, which allows the Globfather to hack into the van's computers. Dumb mistake, Donnie. As I said before, a lot of times Donatello sits in front of the scanner, all right? In Sky Turtles, the seat is bolted to the ground. In Super Bebop and Rocksteady, it's like a little bench. Look how they screwed up what he's viewing on the screen. It's like instead of seeing it on the screen, he just taped the picture up there. Here's a cool chair in Usagi Yojimbo. In Pirate Radio, it looks like, I don't know, the chair is stuck in place. But man, in Too Hot to Handle and in Shrika's Revenge, they're sitting on chairs with wheels in the back of the van, And as soon as somebody slams on the brakes or speeds up, Donnie's just going to go flying. In A Real Snow Job, the seat is bolted to the ground. And now I'm just going to skip around a bunch. But in Northern Lights Out, it's bolted. In The New Mutation, it's a big bench. In The Showdown, it's a rod floating in the air. And in Mobster from Dimension X, it's some type of bench. Next to the scanner here to the left, you have this tall locker or something. In my head, this is supposed to be a garbage can. All right, that's just kind of what I think of it. You have like a little space on top where you can put the garbage in, and then you open up the front door to pull out the bag. That's what it looks like to me. To the right, you have the collapsed side door blaster. It's pretty cool here. It looks very similar to how it appears in the show. I like it. I think it's, got the right detail. It doesn't really look like the blaster in Hot Riding Teenagers from Dimension X or the blaster in the old Switcheroo, but it looks pretty similar to the one in 20,000 Leagues Under the City. Not 100%, but pretty close. And, throughout the series, you see random designs of this, but like I said, 20,000 Leagues Under the City. Geez, I think that's the closest to the one included here with this vehicle. So now, finally, we get to talk about the other wall. The other wall, for the most part, is a mystery to me. I haven't seen any design artwork by Peter Chung, and, that wall just changes all the time. There is no dead set design for that wall that I have seen. I need some kind of confirmation or some sketches or something, In Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X, there's like a giant TV screen on that wall. All right, that's pretty cool looking. I actually really like that design. That to me is, maybe that is what Peter Chung had planned to have on that side, because this shot to me looks like it was storyboarded by him. In Mean Machines, I don't know what any of this stuff is. The back of the van does not look on model at all in that episode. In old Switcheroo, there's many screens. In Corporate Raiders from Dimension X, there's a large, complex computer setup with a chair, and I think that looks really awesome. Donatello uses that computer to hack into Octopus Inc.'s computers so he can adjust Casey Jones's resume. Love that episode, one of the best. And Beware the Lotus, the wall is nothing special. In Michelangelo's Birthday, it's a mix of new stuff and also the scanner for some reason. In Planet of the Turtles, it's not much of anything. In Big Cuffling Caper, it has a large TV screen. That one's kind of interesting because they have like different chairs in the back of the van in that episode. I like in Donatello's Bad Time, they just flip the scanner wall. One time you're looking at it on the one side, and then the next time you look into the back of the van, it's on the other wall. Super lazy dudes. It's also shown to be pretty bare in that episode. In Napoleon Bonafrog, it's just a wall. I think Too Hot to Handle has a very cool design, but the whole inside the van in that episode is very unique. Very unique colors, just very cool design. In Venice on a Half Shell, that right there may be the other wall, or it may be the scanner wall. I can't tell. Artlist has some cool off-model walls. As I've said before, I like the blue a lot. I just think it's kind of cool looking. I also think it's kind of funny how huge April's head is here. Like, geez. This shot right here is actually pretty nice with the back doors and everything. In April Gets in Dutch, the back of the van is very unique again. The vacation episodes are known for being pretty off-model. And at one point, there's even a pizza oven in the back of the van, as well as a large TV screen. In the New Mutation, it's just a wall. In the beginning of the end, it's like a mix of the ladder wall and the scanner wall. So, you may be thinking, well, where the hell did Neca get this design from? Well, it's from Michelangelo Toys Around. It's in the scene where the dudes driving the Tyler Toys truck hit the van and it spins around. It kind of does look like there are portholes here, so maybe you could pretend that those are the portholes that house the ejector arms from the episode Donatello's Bad Time. I don't know. That's up to you. So what's left? Well, I guess you got the back doors, and, those just look fine. I got no problems with those. Not really much to say about them, other than they look good. They look like the cartoon. And again, I love the colors in the episode Artless. The ceiling of the van here, in my opinion, looks like they took some artistic license. Like, I really couldn't find a ceiling throughout the series that looked like this. It just kind of looks like they put maybe some TV screens and just some minor things up there just to make it look cool. In the episode Sky Turtles, the ceiling is pretty plain. In Planet of the Turtles, it's pretty busy looking, but different. I like the green ceiling in Too Hot to Handle, and my favorite is probably the ceiling in Star Child or White Belt Black Heart. In Divide and Conquer, there are some extra vents on the top of the wall. So, that's something, maybe they could have been inspired by this scene. All right, so the last thing to mention is just the random devices that Donatello uses throughout the series in the back of the van. In the future, maybe Neca could, release some of these. There's a lab table in Attack of the 50-Foot Irma. You could release the very cool computer from Corporate Raiders from Dimension X, or maybe even the mic that Donatello uses to talk to Casey whenever he's on the inside of Octopus Inc. You could release the TV remote from Maestro or Menace Maestro Please. In the episode The Big Cuffling Caper, Donatello uses a microscope. That's pretty neat looking. There's a cool computer setup in Welcome Back Polarisoids. That's pretty neat. Here's another angle of that. There's a VCR in Artless. I already mentioned the scanner in the Star Child. There's a techno tracker in the new mutation. It's worth mentioning that during the Beyond the Donatello Nebula episode, there's drawers filled with disguises on the scanner wall. We've pretty much missed the boat for this, but it's just, cool idea. I wanted to mention it because I think it's neat. That's the only episode where I've ever seen that, and it's kind of cool to get the answer. Where are the guys keeping their disguises when they're not wearing them? In Beware the Lotus, the guys actually empty out all of the weapons in the van. That's the only time you see like a lot of those weapons. And get serious, they shouldn't have had those in the van. It should have been like whoopee cushions and balloon animals. Somewhere in the back of the van, there's a knob that turns on the hydraulic lifts in White Belt Black Heart. And I almost forgot to mention, but in Mobsters from Dimension X, the Globfather gets access to the van's computer, so he actually takes control of an interior blaster to shoot out at the guys. He even destroys the back doors. That's the only time you see that blaster on the inside of the van. They could have used that when they were fighting the shapeshifter in Divide and Conquer. Some other quick mentions. Donatello uses a gravity scope in the episode Sky Turtles, but I think he's just actually using the scanner in that one. He says the turtle van has a sound wave modifier and Raph knocks him dead. That way the guys can drown out Raphael's stupid jokes, which are being broadcast all over the city. In Venice and a Half Shell, the scanner or computer can not only detect what Krang sends to Earth from Dimension X, but Donnie can also create a strong magnetic field so the turtles can intercept it and bring it to them using that radar dish on top of the roof of the van. Donnie also pulls this so the turtle van grows pontoons or blows up pontoons to get the turtle van out of the water. And then he pushes this button to sink the turtle van to avoid some boats. And then later on, he pushes this button to create a ramp on the roof of the turtle van. Also, just in case you forgot, Donnie turned this button right here in the episode Pirate Radio to turn the van into a amphibious vehicle. And the very last thing I want to talk about in the inside of the van is there's a few episodes in season 3, which include the Turtle Terminator and what's the other one? Michelangelo's Birthday, where for some reason there's a turtle comm on the wall of the van, and Donatello uses it to talk to April. It's kind of weird, but figured I should mention it. And that is finally it. When Neca put up their sewer lair for pre-order, they advertised that you could, buy an extra one to use as a turtle van parking garage. And, it's okay. It fits in here pretty well. Although I would say that it's a little cramped, especially with the pipes and everything. And you wouldn't want to remove the pipes because then you'd have like the little weird holes up in the top bricks. But yeah, this is pretty much the section that your turtle van is going to have to be stuck sitting in. If you put the top down, at least the blasters are still underneath the street level there, but I don't know, it's pretty cool. Today they just put up for pre-order Donnie's Lab, and what's pretty cool is there's actually some bits and pieces in there that are also featured in the Turtle Van Garage later on in the series. Now, this does not make me wish that I bought a second sewer layer family room or TV room because, I don't know. I don't need this. I didn't need to spend an extra, $300 to buy another box like this. I'll buy Donatello's Lab, though. But, there's some items here that are missing that you would definitely want if you actually want, like, an authentic Turtle Van garage. Like these boxes right here. These boxes, I don't know if they're supposed to be generators or furnaces or, I don't know, heating ducts or something. I don't know what the hell they are. Those are a common item in the Turtle Van garage after season 5, I think. Personally, I like the Turtle Van garage the best in the later seasons, in the Red Sky seasons, because I feel like they kind of worked out some of those boxes a little bit, gave them a little more detail, made them look better, you know, and even added more stuff to the garage. Before that, the garage was just like random spots in the sewers, like this sewer background in Mean Machines. There was nothing really special about the garage in Zack, the Fifth Turtle. But one of my favorite things is in the episode Michelangelo Meets Bugman, there's like a giant spring that shoots the turtle van off into action. Here is the door from Donatello's Bad Time. Neca built this background and, you know, used this image to tease the van before it was put up for pre-order. When the turtles leave the lair, they usually use this sewer grate. And to be honest with you, you see this grate a lot more times than you actually see the turtle van entering or exiting it. Like, you know, lots of times just for an establishing shot, they'll show you that grate, but not necessarily the van leaving it. So it is kind of cool every now and then when you actually see the van go through that thing. And I guess the last thing I want to mention from the cartoon is you see the turtle van keys, sort of, in the episode Shredder and Splintered from season 1, and then you actually get a pretty good shot of the turtle van keys in the season 3 episode, The Big Blowouts. Here's the turtle van next to some of the larger and smaller action figures from this series, and man, these size comparison shots are just ridiculous because there's so many action figures in this line, and then after a while, once you start to get to these big guys, they take up so much space, it's ridiculous. And I mean, this turtle van itself is just huge, you know, so hopefully this gives you somewhat an idea on the scale, how this scales with some of these other characters. Here's the turtle van next to a couple Ultimates action figures. You know, obviously this thing is way too small for the Ultimates, although I would say that, you know, if this was real life or something, I kind of feel like the van is almost in scale with these action figures, but since it's not real life, the van needs to be much bigger. And no, I didn't buy Super 7's Party Wagon. I was going to, but I just kind of never got around to it. I just never picked it up. But if it goes down in price, then I will be buying it. Maybe eventually, right? And here's the turtle van next to some of the original Playmates action figures. You know, I just figured I would show this because this is probably the turtle van a lot of people wish they had growing up. Obviously, this thing is way too big for them. You want to put your turtles in the seats? You can. And that's it. I'm finally finished. Man, this one was a tough one because not only was there way too much information to process and put together, but just lighting and shooting this thing has been a little tricky. In the beginning of this video, I said that I got my turtle van on November 21st, 2023, and I began the review on January 3rd, 2024. As I wrap this up right now, it's March 8th, 2024. So when you take into account my initial turtle van history video and this thing, I've been doing nothing but thinking, writing, shooting, and editing nothing but turtle van videos for about 4.5 months. Jeez. I will never talk about the turtle van again. And no, I wasn't, just working on this the whole time. The past 2 months have been a little busy for me. I got a couple art projects. That's what kind of got in the way of me getting this out quicker. But seriously, just editing this whole thing took for friggin' ever. So even if I didn't have those art projects, I probably wouldn't have been done with this until, I don't know, the beginning of February, mid-February, somewhere around there. So up next, I'll be trying to do some shorter, maybe Ultimates reviews or NECA, Fred Wolf 2-packs. I've also been thinking about some Ghostbusters and Playmates Ninja Turtle toys to talk about, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I hope you enjoyed this video, and in all honesty, I hope this video and its predecessor become the greatest sources of Turtle Van reference in all existence. That's really what these videos are all about, If you had any questions about the Turtle Van, I hope that you found the answers in either this video or the one before it. So thanks for watching, have a good one, and talk to you later.